Hey everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make two cards using the June stamp of the month called Botanical Shadows along with the Leafy Background stamp set. Okay, so let's get started. This is the stamp of the month, Botanical Shadows, and it has these silhouette images. And then this is the Leafy Backgrounds stamp. So I'm going to start with leafy backgrounds, and then I'm also going to use the card front stencil shapes, and I'm going to use the one that's an oval. So I'm going to go ahead and place this down on my piece of cardstock. The cardstock is cut at 4 by 5 1/4, and I've already treated the stencil with some pixie spray, so it has some tack to it. So I'm going to lay the outline down and then the center oval, and then I'm going to peel the outline away so that all that's left on my card front is the oval. And then I'll go ahead and ink up my Leafy Backgrounds stamp with toffee ink, and then I'll stamp that down. So I'm going to have an oval shaped border around the edges of my card front. So I'm going to stamp twice to make sure that everything has contact with the cardstock and there aren't any voids. You do have to press really hard to make sure that you get a cleaner edge to that oval shape and get your stamp pressed down. Okay, now I'm going to bring in the stamp of the month, and the first card that I'm going to do is using this tree line silhouette, and I'm just going to place it down where I want to stamp, and my stamped image is going to be inside the oval. Okay, so we have that down, and then I'm going to go ahead and place the frame back on to the cardstock so it's covering up the stamping that I started with, and then I'm peeling away that oval that's in the middle. So now I have an open space for stamping in the center, and that frame is going to mask off the stamping, and we'll just have it in the middle. So I'm going to use some embossing for my first card, and I'm using some Tim Holtz embossing ink, and we'll just get that stamped down. You won't really see it until I sprinkle some powder on it, but we'll stamp out that image and pull away that frame mask, and then pull away my stamped cardstock, and we'll sprinkle some Rustic Wilderness embossing glaze in this area. So it's a nice pretty green. Tap off the excess, and then we'll heat it up with the heat tool and melt that embossing powder. So it's another option. My next card will do the actual traditional silhouette stamping. Okay, so I'm going to bring in my waffle flower mat. It keeps everything from shifting around, but I do want to go ahead and secure this stencil down with some low-tack tape, just because once you use your embossing gun, the cardstock tends to bow a little bit and it's not completely flat, so using some tape flattens everything out. So we want everything nice and secure, and we have that oval exposed. Okay, so I'm going to do some oxide ink blending. I have Squeeze Lemonade, Blueprint Sketch, and Picked Raspberry, and some Wilted Violet. And I'm going to start out with the lemonade and blend it into raspberry. So the two blended together create a pretty orange. And then we'll blend into the blue. And in between, it's kind of a purple, but I'm going to enhance that using some Wilted Violet. So I'm just going back and forth and creating a nice blend. of colors. And you can put as much or as little on as you wish. And just keep going until you like what you see. That's kind of a sunset sort of looking background. I'll add some more of that wilted violet and get that purple to blend in between the blue and the raspberry. And keep going back and forth and getting everything to blend. Okay, that's good. Get the tools out of the way. And then I'm going to buff out the embossed trees. So I'm removing the oxide ink from those trees. Otherwise it'll continue to sit and it can smear elsewhere. So make sure you buff out those places. Okay, so I'm going to put the whole thing back into my MISTI and I'm going to stamp my sentiment. So this one says, "Thanks so much." And it's part of the stamp of the month. And I'm just lining it up in that oxide blended area. And I'm going to stamp in intense black ink. Now, stamping on oxides, it's a little tricky because it tends to absorb and fade. You want to make sure that the oxide is completely dry and then stamp out. I like to stamp a few times and then I'm going to hit it with my heat tool and dry everything again and set it up. And then we'll stamp one last time, just so we get a nice intense black image. Okay. All right, so that's the basis of my card front. So I'm going to bring in my card base, and it's going to be landscape top fold, and I have a piece of black cardstock cut at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. It's an A2 size, and we'll just put everything down with Tombow tape runner. So we have a single level card, easy to mail, but it looks a little three-dimensional just because of that oval in the center. And I brought in my waffle flower mat when I turned it over, just in case it wasn't completely dry, because I didn't want to make a mess on my verse mat. Okay, there's the finished card. I love that oxide blended background. It's fun to work with those oxides. Nice bright colors. Okay, so we're going to make another one, and basically it's the same thing. So the toffee stamped outline is done, and we're just going to do some blending. So we'll skip ahead and we'll blend with some oxides. So this one is, trying to remember the color, it is Spice Marmalade. And then I'm going to blend it into Ripe Persimmon. And we'll get a traditional sunset or sunrise color blend here. And so we'll go back and forth, and then we'll bring in some picked raspberry. I was thinking about the violet, and then I decided to go to raspberry. Just a touch of that at the top. So I'll just go back and forth until everything is blended nicely. And the great thing about oxides is that they're somewhat opaque, and so you can take a lighter color and blend it over the top of a darker color, and it blends, but it still holds the character of that lighter color. So I encourage you to give them a try. They're a lot of fun to work with. Okay, so we'll peel away that frame stencil, and we'll get it cleaned up, and then we'll bring in the MISTI, and then we'll replace that stencil. Then this time I'm going to bring in the stamp that is of cattails and reeds. And we'll put that down. And I'm going to do the traditional silhouette blending or silhouette stamping with black ink. So I'm going to use some intense black and make sure that everything is set up. I'm going to hit it with my heat tool really quick just to make sure. And I'm going to stamp several times with that intense black. And again, you do have to press really hard to get that stamp to meet with the cardstock in your MISTI because of that stencil. So it has that little lip that it needs to kind of stamp past, and you have to push it down really hard. So you'll see a couple voids there, and I'll just ink up my stamp again and continue inking and then stamping until I get a nice image. Keep going, and then off camera I did a little touch up with the black Le Pen journal pen. Okay, so now I'm going to stamp a sentiment, and this one says "Grateful for You." And off camera I've hit it with my heat tool just to set that ink, make sure we're good to go. And this time just one stamp looked good, so we're going to go with it. And we're going to go ahead and put this together just like the other one, with black around as a border on an A2 card. It's a top fold landscape. So you can get the stamp of the month for $5 with any $50 purchase during the month of June. Or if you're a VIP, you can get it for free with a $50 purchase. I think there's a lot of possibilities with this stamp set. I'll probably do a couple more videos using it. So I'll make a list of all the supplies that I used with links in the description below. And I'll have some close-up shots in just a second. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. And then you'll be able to find all of my videos. That one turned out really pretty, I think. And thanks for watching.